What's going on today, guys? I know everyone's sick of this drama already. I already am, to be honest. I only made this response video because Venus Theory uploaded his video about it, and I did enjoy his video, but I do think there's some things he could have clarified better and give more context on. So that's what I'm hoping to do today in this video. Today we'll be checking out some massive drama. It's gonna be like... I should put an explosion sound effect there, but that works for me. So you remember a while ago, I did a video talking about the not low situation. These two videos, actually, it's kind of like a debate. Like, people are saying it's sampling now, but I don't really think it's sampling. Like, she used like loops from like a loop pack or whatever, and then made exactly the demo track. And the second video was just talking about like people defending it. No shot is it sampling. No, I don't think she ripped it, but I think she definitely copied it. Whether it's intentional or not, I think is up for debate for sure. But it wasn't a one-to-one rip, because I actually did pull it up and compare it, and there are some slight differences, but not very much.
Howdy doody, buckaroonies, and welcome back. So here's a question. Do these two songs sound the same to you?
I'm so sick of hearing this song at this point, dude. Like, because I heard it so many times in editing, so many times when I was researching it. Then when doing the second video, I heard it a bunch of times too. Like, when I hear this, I'm just like, God, fuck this track. Fuck this stupid track.
A couple months ago, I posted a video called Let's Talk About the Splice Problem, where I posed a hypothetical scenario. If an artist uses some loops from a sample pack and releases the track, is that still their song?
I think it really depends on the use case. Like, I think in particular, the reason why people didn't like this one was because it resembled the demo track like nearly one-to-one. I think people wouldn't have cared if that wasn't the case.
Yeah, it's also drum samples and melody.
Yeah, the drums
and bass samples.
Yeah, it's not just like the bass loop either. It's the drums as well too. Like, they're nearly identical. Like, it maybe like some small things tweaked here and there. Like, it seems like she really used the same loops from the same demo track. If it's not the rip of the demo track, which I don't think it was, it's definitely using the loops in the same exact way as the demo track, which I think is what people had a problem with. I don't think people would care if it was just some random one-off song too. These were released on large labels. Wakan, Deadbeats. One of them was posted to a blog named The Unce as well too.
And it's been turning into a bit of a train wreck. To explore why this situation is particularly tricky and see if we can find out if the artist actually stole these songs or not.
I mean, I've already debunked that it was stolen. Like, it wasn't stolen. It was like very close to a demo track. Most of the conversation around this is bike shedding. What the fuck does that mean? It wouldn't have even been drama if like she didn't like waste everyone's time with the USI. What is USI?
Especially considering that this is possibly not the first time that this artist has done this.
He should show the other instances of this happening as well too. I think I showed like at least 3 or 4 in my original video. I decided to go dig those up for reference. The only real difference in this one is the drums. It seems like the sub bass as well as the main bass are all the exact same. So the theory a lot of people have is that these were edited from the project files that these sample packs come with.
On August 31st, 2021, producer Not Low released a track called Hallucination Effect. Not Low is a bass music producer and touring DJ who started releasing music around 2018 and has gone on to release with Deadbeats, Deep, Dark, and Dangerous,
Deep, Dark, and Dangerous actually removed her release after this all came out.
And is currently managed by Compass Music Group.
One thing that is pretty interesting is quite a few people that were defending her are a part of Compass Music Group or are managed by the same people. There's also a part in here about people on the same labels defending her as well too, but I feel like that is a bit more of a reach. Overall, this is kind of an interesting conspiracy. Not say I believe in it myself. Another bit that's quite perplexing is that Compass artists also defended Space Jesus when he was accused of abuse, and they started a smear campaign against one of the women who accused him of abuse. It really gets the noggin jogging.
Not Low has maintained a notable presence in the bass music scene in the last couple of years, performing across the country and featuring in some major
Dog, that's crazy. Imagine that. Imagine getting this many shows for stolen content. I mean, I'm not saying all of her stuff is stolen. Quite a few large releases were stolen.
On March 13th, 2023, Twitter user Xander Black posted a video with
This wasn't where it originally came from. It was actually originally posted on Reddit before this, but this is what blew it up, I think.
Step 1. Find a dope sample pack with a demo track.
God, this is just like my video, man. Venus Theory, I need to call you out, man. He took the demo track of my video. I'm joking, obviously, but this is like exactly how my video went down.
Step 2. Take the demo track and rename it and release it as your own song on a label. Step 3. Rinse and repeat steps 1 to 2 multiple times. Step 4. Profit. The video highlights the blatant similarities between Notlow's track Hallucination Effect and the product demo track for Ghost Syndicate Audio's Nocturna dubstep sample.
Quit releasing your stuff so early? No, 'cause I want to release things when it's relevant.
The video then goes on to showcase the similarities to another Notlow track titled Grudge and the demo track for Ghost Syndicate Audio's Grimoire dubstep.
She just loves Ghost Syndicate Audio dubstep sample packs. In simpler terms, the songs got pulled and it basically should have ended there, but instead it became a debate of what is sampling when the tracks have nearly identical structure. I don't know why people are comparing it to sampling. Like, I feel like that is like some disingenuous shit here. This is not sampling. It's literally using loops and then using them the exact same way as a demo track from a sample pack. It's not sampling. Sampling is actually a respected art form where someone samples something and changes the context of it. Whether it's a funk song becoming a hip-hop song or a disco song becoming an electronic song, it can be very creative. This shouldn't even be classified in the same realm, in my opinion. It's really disrespectful to the art form and showcases how lowly some of these people view sampling. I do understand that some people refer to sampling as using a sample from a sample pack or Splice, etc. I personally feel like that's a bit different though. I really think it'd be useful if they had different terms. I feel like sampling something from Splice isn't even sampling. That's just music production at this point.
Boy, oh boy, did this blow up quick.
It's weird seeing Venus Theory talk about drama.
On the one hand, some people see Notlow as an outright musical thief
I wonder if I'm gonna like see myself pop up in here. What do you guys think? We should take bets on this in the chat.
who ripped off the demo track.
I think I'm either gonna pop up as a reply or maybe like it's gonna mention I made a video about it.
In their entirety and deserves no credit whatsoever. On the other hand, some people feel that Notlow simply used the loop.
Okay, what I hated about these people defending it here, EPROM, his reply wasn't too bad. I think his comparison was kind of shit. Okay, Mr. Bill though, like his like cope for this being okay is because since people have done this on my project files, it should be okay for her to do it with this project file, which I feel like that's a really shitty argument. Like it's like saying, well, since someone has stolen money from a bank before, it's okay if other people steal money from a bank. It's like, yeah, it happens all the time. What's the big deal?
Simply use the loops and samples from these packs.
What's interesting about this is like she's supported or worked with a lot of these people from what I understand. So like, but damn, some of y'all are exposing how toxic about over dramatizing and crucifying her. I do think a lot of people did overreact to. It should have like kind of ended with the apology, except for the fact in her apology, she was like, I'm sorry for sampling. And it's just like, okay, well, I mean, you got to at least acknowledge what you did wrong here. Like, it's like that you use the loops in the same exact way. That's the problem here. The problem isn't sampling or using loops. I'm sure some people probably wouldn't let it go regardless, but that's why I felt like I couldn't like just let it go. That and like the people responding, defending it. But I do agree that some people were pretty like toxic about the whole thing too.
Music with them, however they see fit, modified or not.
Dude, this is a dumb fucking argument. If she had pitched down a half step and changed the tempo by 10 BPM and threw a little reverb on it, would there be would there be the sample level of outrage? What the fuck does that mean? Maybe it meant same level of outrage. How much do you have to change the loop to avoid getting the mob? How are people misunderstanding this? It's not about using a loop. It's about making the exact same thing as a demo track here.
And some other people fall somewhere in the middle. Sure, the tracks sound pretty similar, but
it's a lot more than pretty similar, man.
Just the cost of using loops and samples in your music. On March 14th, Notlow responded.
This response makes me want to vomit. Like, it was all fine and good until the end here where she says, I'm deeply sorry I used to use a lot of samples and loops. Such a backhanded way to take like accountability here, because I feel like if she took accountability and was like, you know what, I shouldn't have copied those demo tracks or whatever, people probably would have just let it go after this. That would have been the end of it.
The response to this statement.
Hey, wait, I saw you, Artifacts. I saw you. Okay, I don't see much awareness in the actual reply, the problem in this reply.
The response to this statement was equally mixed, sparked even further debate about the ethics of loops and sample packs and
rip off
construction kits within the music industry.
I'm not gonna be in here. Guys, I'm not gonna be in the Venus Theory video. This is fucked.
Using loops or samples in music is not really anything new or unique, especially in the context of modern music production. But every once in a while, there does seem to be this collective uh-oh Pesquedios moment when a producer gets caught using a loop from a commercially available sample pack. But before we all break out the pitchforks and jump on the bandwagon here, I want to take a deeper look in this video at the sort of underlying issue here. But before we do that, can we prove or disprove that Not Low stole these songs? In audio production,
I mean, you could just listen to it, man. I mean, it's not, well, I shouldn't say stole, but copied. I think copied is a better way to put it. Either that or it was a coincidental copy, or just using the exact same project file. The whole phase invert thing, I've already disproved this. Like, I don't think he watched my video.
we have to be careful about with
Like, I already disproved this like a week or like at least a week ago.
sounds called.
She probably just started from the demo projects early on in her production career. Then later, when she was finishing things, came across the projects and then forgot they were made from the demos. Yeah, that's a very optimistic way of putting it. That is possible.
Here we have Not Low's track, Hallucination Effect, and the demo track for Ghost Syndicate's Nocturna pack. Right away, we can see the tracks are different lengths.
I don't know, man. I still think I gotta make a big outrage about Venus Theory copying my video. He not load my video, man. He not load my video. That's all I'm saying here. Null checking falls apart if you so much as use a little compression on the stems. That doesn't amount to a transformation. I didn't know the fact that she got signed with these tracks is still questionable, I guess. But that's still shitty AF, yeah.
With different waveforms, but the overall structure seems quite similar. Now, I should mention here that most people who claim Not Low stole this demo track and used it as their own do show that they made some minor alterations to the track by adding in some vocal samples and some other very minor differences. So, let's put that to the test. With all that in mind, if I phase invert one of these tracks, we should get an output of only the difference.
I mean, you can hear this isn't gonna work, like, regardless, if you listen to the two tracks, because there are some slight differences. The drums are, like, a little more punchy in her version. You know, it's probably just mixed better. I don't know, and there's, like, some small differences within the drums and the bass as well, too. I'm so sick of this goddamn song, dude. It triggers me at this point. Okay, that was my take. You know how many people those tracks passed before release? Nobody stepped in. I don't think everyone heard this like sample pack though either, like the demo sample pack, because like it didn't have that many views, to be honest. Like it has like less than 2,000 or something, like in a few comments. Like I don't think too many people had heard it. You would think when you are a label releasing bass music, you're at least somewhat aware of the packs out in the game. Well, true, but there's a lot as well too.
So, not a lot really actually changes there. In fact, it just sounds like two songs playing over the top of each other, which means that they cannot be one-to-one identical recreations.
I feel like he's focusing too much on the tedious part of like whether or not it cancels out and not on the fact that it sounds like nearly identical, right? Like I said though, I don't think she stole it, but I do think the idea was like probably tweaked from a project file or something.
Difference in the mix of
so like knowing that, you know it's not going to cancel out regardless.
Two tracks. What this really seems to indicate is that Not Low didn't simply steal and upload the demo track, but instead used the loops and samples provided within the sample pack to more or less recreate the demo track, but it's different enough to where it is objectively not identical to the original. So that brings us maybe to the bigger problem here. There's a sort of funny phrase I've heard from my friends who live in Nashville and work as songwriters: change a word, keep a third. And what this is really expressing is the idea of making something just different enough to where you can have some sort of reasonable claim to that idea being your own.
Yeah, and this is not far enough from that. This is way far from that, in my opinion. Like, I feel like the bass sounds need to be different. At the very least, the drums need to be different.
This is really skirting around the idea of substantial similarity, which is what so many famous cases of music copyright lawsuits have all come down to. What the idea of substantial similarity tries to prove is that average people without any advanced musical knowledge or expertise could listen to two pieces of music and identify them as being more or less.
VT ain't focusing on the fact that ears are a thing.
Now, in the case of most of the famous copyright lawsuits, it's kind of a balancing act, and it's sort of there if you listen for it. But this is a little bit different, I think, where this is so...
yeah, it's sort of there if you listen for it, you know what I mean?
Undeniably similar that it does come across as sort of a blatant ripoff. But given that it was made with loops provided in a pack, is that really the case, or is this just a case of getting caught sampling?
Well, there's actually a terms of service with the pack.
Loops and samples are a fundamental part of modern music production. In 1971, music was changed forever by
Are we just gonna explain the use of loops now?
the John Congo's track.
That's one thing I hate about video essays. Demo tracks are not for commercial purposes. That is very common for sample packs, yeah.
Which used a sample of a recorded African drumline. Stevie Wonder's 1979 classic, Journey Through the Secret Life of Plants, furthered the use of samples in music and is often noted as the first album to make use of extensive sampling as an integral part of the music. These days,
I don't like this part of the video because I feel like you're comparing it too much to sampling here. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like it's not really that comparable to sampling. You didn't really need to do this. Like, I feel like you're giving her an out.
Sounds, Black Octopus, Cymatics, and about a billion others have turned the once arguably niche art of sampling into a fully fledged commercial industry in its own right. That means that these days, as a musician, instead of needing to perform and record and write and edit all of your own things for only a couple dollars a month, you could get instant access to a bajillion gazillion royalty-free loops and sounds. So what does that phrase actually mean? Royalty-free sounds and loops boil down to a pretty simple definition. If you purchased a sample pack, you then have a right to use the sounds and samples.
And it's usually listed in the license that nobody reads, and that's how shit like this happens. True.
In your own music, but you can't redistribute them in any other form. So while you are free to use my sad boy piano loops in your own song, you can't sell those loops yourself. The situation here alleges that Not Low outright stole the demo tracks for these sample packs and released them as their own, and the evidence presented is actually pretty damning. The Grimoire, Nocturna, Shinigami, and Erebus sample packs, which have all been presented as having their demo tracks stolen by Not Low, include either construction kits or project template files for DAWs like Ableton and FL Studio, which are two of the most popular DAWs in music production. These files exist in a slightly...
She's just like, I make my music on an MPC.
Oftentimes, and in the case of the products here from Ghost Syndicate Audio, the license for the pack will explicitly state that the project files and/or construction kits cannot be used as is for commercial release, or, in some cases, cannot be released commercially whatsoever, even if they've been modified.
Oh, okay, so I feel like that's the kill shot right there.
Construction kits are...
So either she accidentally put it together in the exact same way, or she used a project file. I guess the only thing that would be like okay would be if she did it on accident, but it does seem like it's like too big of a coincidence to be an accident, right? Especially since it happened at least 3 times.
Often included in sample packs like this as a sort of way to demonstrate the pack in action or to demonstrate to the user how...
You know what? You know how we could solve this? We should just make all demo tracks in the future just suck. Or maybe don't include project files. Because what purpose does the project file like serve other than for people to do this in the future? You know what I mean?
Change some loops out, change the tempo or things like that. Or you could use it as just sort of a blanket foundation and change everything to create your own unique track.
How often are people actually doing that though? If you're actually doing that, then you don't need the project file to begin with, right?
But there is nothing stopping you from simply exporting that track as it is and putting it out on the internet.
Except situations like this.
These construction kits and demo projects and things like that are a lot more common than you might think. And in fact, this is how I actually make the majority of my own musical income.
History of sampling. In 1967, John sampled the sample in his song Sample on his album Sampler.
Over the years, I've made... I don't even know how many samples and loops and demo tracks and construction kits and things like that. When I do these things, I'm essentially signing away my rights to those loops and whatnot, so long as you don't go out and sell them yourself or release the construction kit as your own piece of work in most cases. You're free to use those...
Oops, actually made songs that sound like the demo track 3 different times and they all got released. Yeah, it sounds crazy when you put it like that. So yeah, I feel like she's like super busted, dude. Like, I don't know if there should be any coming back from this the more I think about it, because doing this like 3 or 4 times and then not acknowledging that you did it, that's fucked, man. That is super fucked. And like the people who are excusing it too, that's also super fucked. It's like, unless they're like not in the know and they don't know that this was done like 3 or 4 times. Like if you think it was just one time, I could understand thinking why this is excusable. But doing it like 4 times though, I don't know. That's crazy.
You could time stretch them, you could pitch shift them, you could totally transform them with any amount of processing, or you could do nothing at all. And that's exactly what the problem is here.
Apparently she's a cool hang, so that makes it... Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, if she's a cool hang, then yeah, that's cool. I'm fine with that then. Maybe send her my sample packs in. Yeah, I think that, like I said, the issue is that the fact they were released on large labels. And like it was from someone who's like been gaining traction. You know what I mean? If it was just some nobody, no one would really give a fuck. Because you're giving them more attention than it deserves to that point.
And among my sound design and musician friends and colleagues, this is actually an all too common experience. Ben Jordan, perhaps best known as the Flashbulb, is a musical artist who's been releasing music under many different names.
Wow, he looks like Adam 22 there, kind of. Sorry, Ben. I'm sure that's a little bit offensive there.
One of the things that I said about Not Low when people were asking me for my take on it is she didn't get to experience the joy of writing those songs herself. She wondered probably, oh, I hope I don't get found out. And she dreaded this day happening. And so punishing her beyond that is just a little bit silly because she robbed herself of, the reason we're musicians supposedly is because we like making music, and she didn't make it.
While I do agree with the general sentiment of what Ben's saying, I disagree about someone's conscience punishing themselves. Not all people function the same way. It's not going to bother everyone the exact same way, or at all.
This end of sampling and music production has caused a whole list of problems that I'm sure way too many music producers are all too familiar with. Because if I use a loop in one of my songs, I'm not obligated to provide any sort of credit for it, nor am I obligated to make any changes to it.
I mean, it depends on the context, but yeah.
Whatsoever.
Like if it's a royalty-free loop, then yeah. Or I guess it depends on the terms too, right?
Neither.
Weaver, you're my ghostwriter now. I like Ben Jordan and Venus Theory. I'm actually cool with both of them. They're both cool hangs, all right? So since they're cool hangs, it's fine. I think Ben Jordan's take on it is interesting.
What did he say? Basically that she shouldn't be held accountable for it because she feels bad?
I do agree with the point that she did rob herself the joy of making the music, but I do think there should be some sort of punishment for releasing this sort of stuff on a label, especially doing it like 4 times. Like I feel like it's not that weird to be ostracized from like the production community for doing something like that. Like one time, okay, yeah, realize your mistake, whatever. Doing it 4 times and then not being accountable for it, like doing a apology and then being like sorry for using loops and sampling. Like I feel like that's pretty fucked. I feel like the backlash is kind of deserved, although some people do take it a bit far.
Yeah, I don't think people should be like messaging her or anything, or
like doxing her or anything like that. I don't know if anyone doxed her or anything, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think people should be doing shit like that. I really think she should have just been more accountable in her apology. I feel like people would be more likely to forgive her, but like just being like sorry for using loops, like that's kind of a backhanded way of taking accountability for it.
Yeah, pretending like it didn't happen is kind of silly too.
There are a ton of examples of popular artists using loops from commercially available sample packs in their own tracks, and it's really not common for them to be thrown to the wolves for doing so. Young Thug's track Kill Before uses a guitar loop from Electric Soul by Treehouse with a
This is like, we're getting so far from the point at this point. I feel like comparing this to someone using a splice loop is not the same at all. I get that she used a loop also, but she used virtually all the loops in the project file the sample pack came with and re-uploaded it as her song in the exact same way as the demo pack. I feel like this is comparing rain to a hurricane.
Modifications to the pitch. Marshmello's mega viral track Friends uses a guitar loop from the Prime Loops pack melodic guitar hooks.
That's not the problem though.
With a little bit of EQ and additional compression. Skrillex's track Roughneck uses samples from the Prime Loops urban and dance.
Okay, we're getting really far from the problem at this point. Samples? Now we're talking about samples.
Vocals pack with a couple of small alterations.
I would say we are now comparing water to a hurricane at this point.
There are even entire websites dedicated to hunting down the samples that artists have used. And one website even has a section specifically dedicated to finding loops from sample packs used in popular songs.
I didn't know that you could do that on Who Sampled.
Now, this is all fine because this is the nature of using royalty.
Imagine if the world let cheaters go on the grounds of them already being punished by their own guilty consciences. True.
But every once in a while, for whatever reason, some producers get thrown in producer jail for using a loop, even if it is royalty-free. One of the most well-known examples of this was
Bro.
Steve Angello released the track Nas, which used a sample from Vengeance's Future House sample pack series. The difference between the two is
Play it.
pretty minimal. The original loop is fairly clean, and in Steve Angello's
it's just processed differently. That's the only thing that's different about
track,
it.
a couple of effects are added, and of course it's layered with drums and
it's just super lazy.
other elements to create the finished product. And this is strikingly similar to the current situation.
Play it.
Not Low. A producer downloaded
Play it, goddammit.
put some stuff together and turned it into a track. But because the loops are too instantly recognizable, the ideas of artistic integrity and the integrity of sampling are called into question.
Fuck this. I'm playing it, dude. So this was #1 on Beatport. The funny thing is the Vengeance version sounds better to me. These situations aren't quite the same. From what I'm aware of, I don't think there was a demo project file that was a 99% match to Steven Angelo's track.
This is trying to do a
bad
classic
look for a
debate
loop company to sue someone using one of the loops, though.
That's true. That is true.
in the music industry of if sampling makes artists lazy. After all, with samples and construction kits, it's now easier than ever for anyone to create a song without needing any real technical knowledge. You could slap together some loops, do some rough balancing, and have that uploaded to all the major streaming services.
I think people would also care less if you did it a little more creatively too. Like if you just take one loop that is the foundation of a demo track and then make it the foundation of your track, then it's like, come on, man. Like, what are you really doing here? What are we all doing here? Why are we listening to this?
In a matter of a few days.
But if you like take like two different loops, mix them together, and like, you know, maybe pitch one so it goes into key with the other one, maybe like chop, you don't even have to chop it up a bit, but if you at least do that, then it's like, okay, well, you use loops, but this is a new thing.
The commonly expressed sentiment here is that the days of true artistry and real musicians are all over. Electronic music has ruined music forever, and those with real talent who play real instruments are left to languish in obscurity, doomed to forever be.
Wait, hold on. Whatever happened to the great solo rock star? We all know that rock isn't quite as big now as it was a quarter century ago, but I got to discussing this question with my partner recently. I keep coming back to it. There's a lot of variety in the indie and alternative rock scene today. Is there really, though? And plenty of big rock acts, but where are today's great solo rock stars? Where are the David Bowies? Where are the Peter Gabriels? Where are the Eric Claptons? Where are the Princes? What happened to all the great solo storytellers of rock? Rick Beato, is that you?
Where are the David Bowies?
Doomed to forever be a tortured artist, while the kids with their
What does DJ Khaled even do? Okay, that's just a fair one there. What does he really do? Like, I would actually have more respect for DJ Khaled if he actually like put artists together that like no one's heard of or something. He finds someone from out of nowhere and puts them with Drake. It's like, oh, this is a perfect combination of artists here. But he literally just takes big artists that everyone knows already, puts them in the same room, pays them money, they make some shit songs, and it's over. And people are like, but he's a producer in the traditional sense, man. It's lazy, dude. It's lazy. And it's, you know what? Maybe it's just because DJ Khaled robs himself of the art of making actual music, so he's already got his punishment, right?
Yeah, he's already feeling his punishment.
Right. David Bowie, is you out there? Hip-hop started with sampling because people didn't have drum kits and didn't know how to play instruments, so the easiest way was to sample it from record. That's true. And also, like, it was to take something and make it into something else.
Between the sample pack industry, the undying plague of MIDI packs, and other purported auto-talent devices and programs out there, it brings up the question, what's left that really separates those with true musical talent from the...
Who cares if you have true musical talent? Just make a good song and, you know, make sure it's not something that I could just find somewhere else and like with a one-to-one comparison. It's one thing if you sample something from a different genre, but to sample something of the same genre and then make nearly the exact same track, come on, man.
Those who simply copy and paste. In an effort to set aside my own biases here, I wanted to put this theory to the test that...
What are we doing now in this video?
To do this, I created a simple loop and asked some members of my Discord to create a track using the loop.
What are we doing in this video anymore at this point, man? I did notice this when I did my remix competition. A lot of the people that remixed the songs, like they did not do a lot to it. So these numbers do seem kind of accurate. I will say that.
This tendency for musicians to not modify loops, combined with the mass availability of the samples, has also led most music production agencies to outright ban using loops from services like Splice or Loopmasters in production music libraries, which is something I've seen myself with almost every music licensing library I've worked with and composing gig I've worked on. Sampling has become a time-honored tradition in music, whether you're using a one-shot or chopping up a drum loop to make a D&B banger or whatever. It is just something that is so tightly weaved into the fabric of modern music production. But many producers feel that there's a deeper art to sampling in the art of flipping. Flipping a sample can mean any number of things. It could be chopping up and rearranging a loop. It could be time stretching the sample to...
Why are we doing this at 20 minutes in the video?
...create a different tempo. It could be pitching the sample up or down to...
Pitch Monster, I've never tried that one.
...a different musical key. Or it could be entirely transforming it with any degree of processing from the endless tools that producers have at their disposal.
I think there's truth to that. Like, yes, sampling can be creative, but the pendulum has swung too far the other way. Of course, sampling can be creative. Don't make me pull up a burial sample right now. I will.
But does not modifying a sample make you a lazy producer? However, in the cases where artists claim to be making original music when it's really just sampled or outright stolen, or in the case of sound design when people make loops samples that are stolen or heavily inspired by other artists, like the infamous case between Kashmir and Mick Gordon, I
don't know that one.
think that's where the line starts to become a bit more clear.
What is this?
Didn't know that was going to come out in the same sentence.
Okay, wait. Kashmir responds to allegations of ripping off Doom samples. Doom composer Mick Gordon accused Kashmir of ripping off samples from the soundtrack and his Sounds of Kashmir Volume 3 sound. I didn't hear about this.
Now who's late to the news?
Yeah, well, this was like
I know,
5 years ago. Kashmir claims that his attempt to recreate the sounds of Doom, he accidentally recreated the sounds too closely. Interesting.
In the case of sample packs with construction kits or project files, if someone releases those tracks as is and it's a violation of the sample pack license, then of course that's definitely a problem. So what do you make of all of this? Is Notlow guilty of plagiarism?
I feel like we barely even talked about the situation. You know what I mean? I feel like maybe like 3 minutes of the video actually talked about the situation, and then the rest of it danced around like the concepts of things tangentially related to it.
Is Notlow just another victim of getting caught sampling, or is there maybe another angle to all this that hasn't really been considered yet? Given how sort of weird the situation is, I'd be very curious to get your thoughts on all of this. In the meantime, though, don't forget to get off the internet and maybe go make some music this week. And I guess the homework assignment
I need to be on the internet to make my music, man.
for this one might be to transform a sound or a sample as much as you possibly can so that you
Infiltrator, bro. Infiltrator, that's all you need.
don't have to go to producer
Imagine in the future people are like, use Infiltrator on this. Get him.
jail too.
Another reminder that copyright infringement is different from plagiarism. Sampling versus using loops and whether they're creative or not will be argued until the end of time. I just feel like that's not what the argument is here. I feel like if you just use a loop, like people wouldn't have that much of an issue about it. But if it like resembles the demo track nearly identically, I think that's what the issue is here. I think this comment here actually paints it pretty well, I think. Let me read it. Notlow used the samples in the Lego set to build the track shown in the instructions. While this is possible, the whole point is to use the samples in your own creation. Ben said it right. While the song was created, the feeling of creation wasn't there. Building something from instructions is cool and the result is pleasing, but nothing beats the feeling of making something your own. Yeah, I think that's the most realistic comment here.
But it's also kind of like making the thing from the construction kit and then putting it on display in a museum somewhere.
Yeah.
That's kind of original work.
That's a good point. There's like a few extra steps here.
To me, that just sounds like some kind of enabling like mindset.
Got to be on the internet to make music. How's he going to download samples? Drew, how's am I going to download demo tracks? So Alchemy talked about the Notlow situation too for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why people were waiting so long to talk about this. This was like a hot topic like over like a week ago.
So I think that it's important to not start sticking your face in other people's business.
As someone who sticks his nose in other people's business constantly, I disagree.
But I would pose the question on, is this crucifixion an act of jealousy?
I think for some people it's jealousy, and for other people it's about like just calling out shit.
I'm not really here to answer that, but I will say that if you are somebody that has sampled something ever without giving somebody credit, the aim and break, if
it's not the same. Like comparing this to like sampling the aim and break is not the same thing.
you're somebody that takes something off of YouTube and downloads it straight into your DAW and uses it, if you sample other...
This is not the same thing. Like this is what I don't like about this situation is people are like reframing it differently.
You are technically, in some cases...
This is like if you took the amen break with the amen lead and the amen bass.
Yeah, exactly. This is like taking the whole song that uses the amen drum break and then like making that your song and maybe like adding a little vocal blip over it here and there.
If you've ever listened
that's a more accurate comparison
to Daft Punk, if you've ever listened to Drake, if you've ever listened to...
That's so fucking... Bro, come on, Alchemy. I normally agree with you on a lot of stuff, but this is a horrible take. Don't compare this to Daft Punk, man. That's awful.
Or listen to MF Doom. Like, these are...
Don't compare this to MF Doom, man. What the fuck, dude? Oh, come on, man.
For sampling on a marginal level. So I find it kind of interesting that when somebody does this from a sample pack, as cringy as it is, because don't get me wrong,
are people just like thinking this is just a loop taken from a pack, and then they're thinking like, oh yeah, this is just like sampling. Why are people freaking out about sampling? Like, are they just missing the point of what happened?
I'm not defending Notlow. I don't know her. I've never even heard her music until...
I mean, you kind of are defending her by comparing this to MF Doom.
Until actually I've just heard the only 20 seconds of whatever that's going on. But I don't get why we're all making a big deal of this. When, if you were to sample the aim and break, that person,
I'm about to fall over and fucking die right now.
was at the Winstons, that family didn't even receive any royalties.
Click out now. I need to know where this is going.
The drummer died. And yet here we are all using this break sample. Here we all are all stealing samples and stuff. But when somebody takes something from a pack that's immediately recognizable, we're quick to point the finger. And that's why I asked the first question, because are we really upset because somebody did something wrong, or are we upset because somebody did it and made some success off of it?
This is like the bad take of all bad takes right now, dude. Jesus Christ.
It almost feels like he doesn't understand the situation.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm,
the whole shit.
That's what I'm thinking too. Like, I'm thinking maybe he saw Venus Theory's video and then like that's the only context he has on this or something, because like I could see how someone would come out of Venus Theory's video not knowing about it and not understand the issue completely.
The explaining it away as simple sampling is like a smokescreen, and then it makes the actual issue disappear.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem people have with like a lot of people defending her when this happened, because like they were like kind of comparing it just to sampling, and it really like makes it seem not as bad then.
Band Incorporated.